Dan
Hello,
or Kevin,
hello.
I'm sorry.
No, that's all right.
I was just getting myself another cup of coffee. I'm all set.
All right. We'll go ahead
So
and
we'll wait.
yeah,
Go ahead.
I'm gonna mute everybody and we're gonna get started.
Okay.
All right. Good morning, or good afternoon, depending on where you're joining us from. Coach Kevin here, and let's go ahead and get started. First thing I want to do is go ahead and share my screen with you and point out a couple things. First of all, if this is your very first time with us, would like you to know that we have a Facebook group that coincides with this meetup, and it has the same name. I want to be really rich, and I do not apologize for it. So we invite you to come join our Facebook group. Be happy to have you with us. It's the same name. What you do to find it is just go into your own Facebook profile where it says search Facebook, type in I want to be really rich and I do not apologize for it, and you'll find us. Ask to join us. We'll be happy to have you. The other way to find us is go directly to facebook.com/groups/I want to be really rich as one word. So that's another way you can come find us. When you go there, it'll bring you directly to this page. So why would you want to join the Facebook group? A few different reasons. If we have any special announcements, we tend to keep those pinned to the top. So any announcements for the group that you would need or want to know, there you can find those. The other thing is you can see as I'm scrolling down here, what we do, as long as I remember to hit the record button, which I typically do, we record these Zoom meetings. So let's say, for instance, you're on today, it's your very first time, and you're like, wow, I really like what was shared. I wish I could hear that again or see that again. Well, guess what? Yes, you can. Join the Facebook group. The other thing could be, let's pretend you're with us Monday through Friday. And for some reason, or we're here Monday through Friday, but for some reason you either can't make it on Thursdays, or maybe there's a specific Thursday you can't make. Well, then what you have the ability to go do, of course, is go back and find what we did that day and get caught up with us. And sometimes you want to do that because we could be studying something or going through something that takes multiple days to get through. And so you may want to go get caught up with us. Or from time to time, we will pick something that we're doing special for just one day, which, by the way, that is going to be the case for today. We're going to do something different. So those of you who've been following along, there was a question that was asked the other day. I'm going to come out of screen share for just a moment, see who happens to be here right now. I know more people always end up joining us. Okay, well, Tanya's not here, so hopefully she'll get to watch the recording or pop on in a moment or so. I want to point out, though, that what I chose, I felt inspired to do, because this question often comes up, or when you are given like the challenge to do the Steve Harvey 300 list, you're wondering, what should I write down? Well, some of you guys want to be helpful, which is awesome, and be a blessing to other people. So what you do, and this is fine, you write down things that you want, and sometimes very little of them have to do with you yourself. And you think you're doing the right thing. Okay. Kind of yes, kind of no. It depends on your motive. It depends on your belief. It depends on your feelings. What do I mean by that? We could be trying to play God instead of allow God to play God. We could be trying to be someone else's source of good when they should learn to rely upon God in the universe to be their source of good. Also, we think that by not wanting much but wanting for others, that is what God would actually want of us, and that's not true either. God in the universe want us to be, do, and have everything that we are capable of unfolding into. So if we are limiting ourselves because we don't feel worthy, or have some kind of low self-esteem, or we feel there's a problem being rich, that's not the best way to go about doing it. The best thing to do is we need to change the programming in our subconscious mind to actually see ourselves as worthy, which, by the way, there isn't a worthy or unworthiness to receiving what we want. That's not how it works. There are laws that determine if we receive what we want or not. Okay, laws that govern the universe and govern how we manifest things. And they are laws that function whether we're aware of how they work or not. It doesn't keep them from functioning. Just like gravity, a small child that climbs up onto the kitchen countertop and crawls off the other end and falls to the floor and hurts itself was not evil, was not trying to do anything wrong, but was totally unaware of the law of gravity and the consequence of crawling off the other side of the counter. Okay. Again, doesn't mean there was anything wrong with the child, but that doesn't change the result. The actual result ends up being the child gets hurt. Okay. Well, if we don't live the way that we should live, in essence, following the laws, then we get hurt. And what's happened is a lot of us, basically innocent, like that child, have been hurt many times because we aren't aware of the laws, first of all, and we're not aware about how they work. But one of the most important laws to actually go obey, and I would call it the law of who God is. I'm making up that name for it, and I'm sort of making up a law in essence, but basically here is the law that you don't want to disobey. Okay. If you disobey this law, you're going to cause a lot of problems with your life. And that law is there is a God and I'm not him. That doesn't mean we don't have God-like power. That doesn't actually mean we can't become like God. But for our sake of understanding right now, when we're trying to manifest things that we want in our life, there is someone, God in the universe, that know much better than we do how to provide good for everyone. And when people obey the laws and ask for good in their life and ask for things in the correct way and are open to receiving them in the correct way and are programmed subconsciously to accept that, then it will happen. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to jump into a book. I'm actually jumping way into a book that you guys have not read. I've read it multiple times, but it's been a little while. But I'm jumping all the way into chapter 23. Now, I almost always pick something that you don't have to go out and buy, okay? Because most of the stuff that I'm able to, that we work with, it has been around for a while. And a lot of times it's public domain, therefore multiple people have printed it, therefore you can search Google the name of the book in PDF and you can come up with a free copy. And I always show you how to get a free copy. In this case, though, I want to share a chapter of a book that I don't believe I can get you one as a free copy that way. You could try typing it and finding it, but you're probably going to have to buy it off of Amazon or something if you want the book. But here's the cool thing. You've got my screen so you can follow along with me. I'm going to keep it on screen share. I'm going to record this as we go, and you can go back and review this. So you don't necessarily need to go out and buy the book. But I just felt intuitively that the questions that have been coming lately about what to ask for and wanting to help other people have come frequently, and people are asking and not really knowing what to do. And this particular chapter of this particular book focuses on that, you know, what it is that we should ask for, what it is we should do to help other people. This book is a book called I'm Rich Beyond My Wildest Dreams. And this is chapter 23 out of that book. So it's I'm Rich Beyond My Wildest Dreams. I am. That's the title of the book. And chapter 23, I'm going to go through this because I think it is going to be a good discussion today, but it's going to answer some of your questions. Now, granted, because I am in chapter 23 of this book, they've obviously talked about a lot of other things up to this point, but we're going to talk here about, I call it foolish spending if you have the money already, or even foolishly wanting money to do something that you ought not to do with it, okay? So we want to learn how to actually protect ourselves so we receive what we want and it continues to flow to us easily and effortlessly once we actually learn how to manifest what we want. I'm going to get a sip of water and then we're going to go with this. Beware, beware, beware. So that's 3 bewares, guys. That sounds pretty important. Okay. Dangers lurk in this ocean of wealth and abundance. Good people can lose their birthright. Honest people who otherwise would have enjoyed brilliant careers, happy families, and living in the lap of luxury, instead bring themselves to a tragic end. They have everything and they will lose it all. They lose what God has given them because they fail to recognize the dangers of spending money foolishly. My friend, the general, reminds me that spending your money in one of the following 3 ways is guaranteed to carry you sooner or later to the lagoon of broken dreams, where the murky waters of foolish spending will strip you of your wealth and your health and leave you stranded in the boggy swamp of those who might have been. Whatever you do, please avoid spending your money in the following ways. Number 1, failing to tithe. Spend God's money, which would mean spending God's money on yourself. Failing to tithe and then spending on yourself can be truly disastrous. You owe God 10% on every dollar you get, period. It is his, not yours. He does not like it when you cheat him. He is doing all the work. You may think it is your genius or sweat that has created your wealth, but it is not. If you doubt who is doing the work, you can stop tithing for a month and watch your prosperity come to a screeching halt. Remember, tithing is not for God's benefit. It is for your benefit. God does not need your money. Tithing is for you. You tithe for your own benefit. You are paying for your spiritual growth. You're paying for the things you receive. You are keeping your ego in check and recognizing the source of everything you have. You are tithing because God is in charge and he expects you to. You tithe because you love God and it is good for you. Where you tithe is as important as tithing itself. You send your tithe to individuals, groups, and institutions who provide you with spiritual assistance. Send your money to those who help you grow and learn spiritually. This is about cause and effect again. You send the money to pay for your growth. You do not take groceries from one store and pay another. You pay where you get the benefit, and you increase the effectiveness of your tithe. Oh, here's another thing to remember. You do not tithe based on need. Tithing is for your benefit, not for the benefit of the recipient. If you want to support homeless people, starving children, or any number of excellent efforts, good for you. But that is not tithing. That is charity. Give freely to others. If you want to support a religious organization you left several years ago because they've fallen on hard times, great, do it. You get a tenfold return. It talks about that in a previous chapter. Just do not count it as your tithe because it is not. You tithe where you get the benefit. Tithing is for you, not for them. Tithe 10% to God on every dollar you receive, and you will be rich beyond your wildest dreams. If, however, you decide to keep it and spend it on yourself, he will do 2 things. 1, he will stop giving you what you asked for. And 2, he will take his 10% anyway. You will pay more for the things you want and need. Things will break down. Your wealth will decline. Your health will deteriorate. Relationships will erode, and your life will become more a bowl of pits than cherries. A couple started using this system a few years ago, and they did very well. They could not give 10% at first, so they gave what they could with the intention that they would pay more as their income grew. Well, they flourished, and for a year, they increased their tithing until they reached 10%. Then something happened, as it often does. This life is more of a test than a reality. Their income dropped for a period of time, and their expenses had increased over time. They lived in a bigger house, they ate at nicer restaurants, they spent more on clothes, and on and on. So they dropped down to giving 1 or 2% of their income. They continued with this level of tithing, and amazingly, their income continued to drop. Within 6 months, they were considering bankruptcy and blamed the system. Mumbo jumbo, as I believe was the term. Fortunately, they asked for help. They saw the problem and increased their tithing immediately. Their income rose accordingly. The universe will test us. God wants to make sure you will keep your word. Because once you stop tithing 10%, it's always harder to start again. Many people fail to receive their wealth for this very reason. Number 2, and this actually goes specifically to answer the question that Tanya had and others have had. Playing God, saving other people. God allows no others before him. Spending to save other people puts you between them and God. You are playing God. You become their savior. It is a seriously destructive practice. God will not allow it. He will take your money, your health, and eventually your life. Let us assume you have followed all the steps outlined in this book, and you have a great income and have everything you've ever dreamed of having. What do you do now? Now you start paying your sister's family's bills. You know how tough it is, and you have plenty, right? Why not help them out? Pay their house payment. Month in and month out, you pay the bills that keep them in their house. Sure, your brother-in-law hates his job. It would probably be better if he went back to Texas, like he's always talking about doing. But what the heck, you know better. Besides, your sister is suffering. She is forced to buy her children, your nephews, used clothes. You're dressing your kids in designer wear, and hers are practically in rags. One step up from the poor people your church takes Thanksgiving dinner to. Why not buy them some clothes too? I don't mean for birthdays or Christmas or just an occasional gift. That would be fine. But every month you take them out and buy clothes, or make it easier to simply pay her credit card bills. What can it hurt? We're supposed to give after all, right? Wrong. Dead broke wrong. There is a fine line between giving freely to others and playing God. Maybe God wants your sister and her family back in Texas. Maybe there's a car wreck waiting for them here, while Texas holds the key to their prosperity. Your money is the only thing keeping them here. Every sign in the world has told them to go, but you keep writing the checks. Or maybe your sister is supposed to get so frustrated that she gets a job that leads to a business from which they prosper. Maybe they're supposed to go into therapy and you deny them this natural evolution of their life. Or maybe the reverse occurs because you buy them everything he feels emasculated. They fight and eventually get divorced. Whatever the outcome is for them, it is worse for you. You put yourself in God's shoes. You took his place. You put yourself before God. And what did Moses carve on those stone tablets? Thou shalt have no other gods before me. If you pay somebody else's bills, if you become the source of their good, you will lose your money, your health, and then your life. I know of a woman who learned this lesson the hard way. She had learned this system of achieving wealth and followed it to the letter. She tithed regularly, she gave freely of herself, she maintained a positive mental attitude, and love was her favorite color. She and her husband had developed an excellent business, were in good health, and never wanted for anything. Then she started paying her 2 brothers' families' bills. Month in and month out, she paid their rent and their utilities and even their food bill. She even gave them cash to live on. This all came to light because her husband took ill. Slowly over the months, his health deteriorated. He worked fewer hours at the business, and he developed a strange, unexplainable shortness of breath. His heart was okay, but he had no energy. He grew weaker every month as she paid her siblings' bills. Eventually, the business suffered. New business dried up. Old, long-established accounts stopped buying. Within a year, the business was on the verge of bankruptcy, and he was in bed more days than not. The doctor had no explanation for his illness other than the modern day equivalent of he needs a good leeching. The truth was, he already had several leeches attached to his well-being. Once this woman stopped paying her family's bills, both her husband's health and the health of their business improved overnight. Literally the next day, an old client decided to come back. Her husband's mysterious illness eventually vanished into thin air. Her two brothers and their wives took back control of their own lives, and everyone lived happily ever after. Sometimes your own children can cause you to fall into the trap of playing God. Once your kids are grown, they need to develop their own relationships with the universe directly, and you need to stay out of it. Everyone, even your own children, has the right to learn through their own actions, the law of cause and effect. If you get in the way, you hurt them as well as yourself. This can be very painful for a parent. Our friends had a 24-year-old daughter living with them. She never could seem to get enough money to buy a car, much less live on her own. Our friends knew this wasn't good for anyone. Their daughter was constantly fighting with the mother. These fights were small, annoying problems that served as a constant irritation to the entire house. After consulting with Marilyn, and that is somebody that was a mentor to the person who wrote this book, our friends decided to charge their daughter room and board. It gave her a sense of worth she did not have before. She also got used to paying rent. On a higher scale, she was asking the universe to provide her with rent money. By paying her parents' rent, she created a category for rent which the universe filled. Almost immediately, she began making more money at work. Many of the problems at home went away. She made more money and had more fun. Within months, this girl bought a new car, found an apartment, and moved out. Playing God is a very bad idea. It hurts everyone involved. It stagnates your spiritual growth and creates an effect which can cost you everything. Number 3, hoarding. Saving for the wrong reasons. Save for the wrong reason and the money train runs out of gas. The concept here is hoarding, loving the money more than its source. Remember, the root of all evil is the love of money. God wants you to trust in Him, to love Him above all things. When you hoard, you're placing your faith and trust in the money you have saved. You put money above God, the good of the universe. You're saying that no matter what happens, you will have the dollars or pesos or yen you need to handle it, which simply is not true. You cannot possibly save more than God can take away. Think about that one. You cannot possibly save more than God can take away. You are not as powerful as the universe. Think of the Titanic. It was designed to be unsinkable, the safest ship to ever sail the ocean blue. It was thought to be so safe that they didn't even take all the lifeboats on its maiden voyage. They left them back on the dock in England. It took 5 years for men to design and build the unsinkable Titanic, and about 2 hours for the forces of creation to turn it into a rusting hulk on the ocean floor. The universe is more powerful than anything you can devise. Hoarding means you're asking God to prove His power. Bad idea, very bad. This does not mean you cannot save money or invest or have retirement plans. All of these things are well and good. It is the excess we're talking about. And as usual, the most important aspect is intent. What do you intend to do with the money you're saving? If you're hoarding money, squirreling it away for a rainy day, watch out. The first thing that will happen is a downpour. You will get what you're preparing for. Every thought is a command. If you're saving for hard times, the subconscious produces exactly what you're most afraid will happen: hard times. Those rainy days will come, and you may very well be washed out to sea. Spend your money wisely and avoid the quicksand of spending foolishly. Tithe first with the first check you write. Do not, under any circumstances, play God. Save, but do not hoard. Spend wisely, and you most certainly will be rich beyond your wildest dreams. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and stop there for today. Hey, a few more people have joined us since we got started. Awesome, awesome, awesome. So like I said, I felt very much intuitively that this needed to be shared, partly because of the question that was asked a couple days ago by Tanya. And I know she's not on right now because I could see that. But I believe that not only Tanya needs to hear it so she can go watch the recording, but I think I needed to do this because I think there are many of us that needed to hear this being said, because we're asking for things. We want money for things, or we want money itself. And our intention of what we want the money for is determining if we're trying to play God or not. It's determining if we're hoarding or not. It's determining where we actually really do put our trust and our faith. So, all right. So here's what we're going to do now for those of you that are brand new with us today. What we typically do is save about 10, 15 minutes to have a discussion and to answer questions. So you are able to share what you like to share. Here's what would be appropriate. Anything in relationship, if you've been with us for a while, to anything that we've studied in the past that you've learned something from, or that you would like to ask a question about. Anything that we went over today that, you know, maybe some ahas that you had, some things that you learned, some ideas that it gave you, and or any questions about it. And then the other thing you could share, it may not have anything to do with today's lesson and what we just went through, but it can be in relationship to intentionally manifesting anything good that you've had manifest in your life, particularly money and wealth, but it could also be other things that you manifested intentionally. If you'd be willing to share those experiences, that would be awesome. And or you can ask any questions in relationship to manifesting more money and wealth in your life. So here's the time for you guys to get the opportunity to share. All you need to do is come off mute and start speaking, and we'll just take you in the order that you go ahead and do that. And please don't be shy, okay? This time is valuable to everybody, and if you've got something that you would like to share, or a question you'd like to ask, you are not getting in the way of somebody else by doing it. You know, just go ahead and do it. All right.
Hi, Kevin. It's Dale talking.
Hi, Dale.
I have a question, sort of a mental dilemma as far as being rich and prosperous. As a kid, I was generous, or say generous to the wrong people. Certain people took advantage of me or didn't appreciate my kindness. But on the other hand, I have to admit that I did borrow a lot of money. I'd ask people for money for lunch, and like here and there, I borrowed more than I should have.
Okay.
And like not in the thousands of dollars. I think the most money someone loaned to me was maybe, I think, $200 for rent. But I was, I grew up careless with my money, loaning and asking for money. And I guess I feel guilty about it, particularly asking. And part of me is afraid of being prosperous because I feel that certain people will come back and say, hey, you owe me 200, or you owe me 50, or they try to take advantage of it. And I'm very sensitive, and I'm afraid of being taken advantage of. So how do I solve that?
Okay. Well, the first thing you got to recognize is that God's in charge. God and the universe are in charge. And if people believe different things, so you don't actually even have to believe in God and the universe exactly the same as I do, okay? We can all believe it differently. We do, for this to work, have to believe that there are laws to be followed, and there's something out there more powerful than just ourselves, okay? Are you Christian by chance?
I am.
Okay. So since you are, let me give you an idea here, okay? That might be helpful. First of all, as a Christian, we should make the assumption that anything that we have messed up in our lives, either through what we consider to be a mistake or sin, was covered by what Christ did.
Mm,
Okay. Therefore, the law of karma doesn't have to come bite us in the butt
okay.
because there's also the law of forgiveness, but we have
Right.
to accept the forgiveness. Okay. So, first thing you need to do is accept that what anything you've done that you feel guilty or shame about up to this point in your life has been taken care of already. So you need to ask it just to feel good about it. And you could say it however you want. I'm going to kind of give you an idea of what you could say.
Mhm.
Dear God, dear Heavenly Father, however, I admit that I've made mistakes and committed sin in the past, sometimes unknowingly and sometimes very much knowing what I was doing. And
Okay.
I also know, though, that you sent your son to take care of that for me so that I can prosper and repent and live a better life going forward. So I ask at this time that I be forgiven by you and the universe, and I ask you to help me to forgive myself.
That's excellent.
Now, going forward, I am committing to you to do my best to do your will. And when I make decisions in relationship to either borrowing money, lending money, or spending money, I will come to you first going forward and ask what is the best thing to do, knowing that I will always receive an answer, whether it's what I want to hear or not. I'm willing to do your will. So I appreciate you forgiving me. I appreciate you helping me to forgive myself. And I'm now open to all the good that thou art capable of bestowing upon me. And I will ask thee how to use those resources as I receive them.
I love it. Thank you. Can you? Oh, I know what you said was kind of long, the ending sentence. Can you repeat it, or is it possible to
Here's what
repeat it?
you can do. This video will get posted in the Facebook group eventually,
Oh, yeah. Okay. Excellent.
probably tomorrow. So
Excellent. Thank you so much. That helps a lot.
awesome. Awesome.
Hey, Kevin, this is Francine.
Hey, Francie.
Hey, in regards to tithing, okay?
Uh-huh.
So here's my experience. My parents did do that, and I never saw them completely grow to become super, super wealthy.
Mhm,
They were comfortable, but they never became super wealthy.
mhm.
So I never did that my whole life.
Okay.
Because of that, because of what I saw, you know.
Uh-huh.
So I've heard of tithing and up to 10% and so on,
Yeah.
and I believe some people do it, and I've just stayed away from it because I did not believe in it.
Mhm.
So now you're reading this, and I'm certainly not trying to insult you or anything like that, but you
No, that's
have
okay.
it says that we have to tie to the people who help us spiritually or in our life,
Uh-huh.
So you've been doing this
Well, I'm not
Zoom
asking you to send me any
session.
money. I'm not
You're
asking
doing
anybody to send me any
so
money.
right now. You're the only person in my life that's helping me spiritually like that.
Okay, that's fine.
So I'm like,
Uh,
okay, so am I supposed to send some money to Kevin so that way I'm in line with the tithing law, or should I just continue to go? Okay, well, my parents, it did not work for them, so
okay.
where do I go?
All right. So let me share my experience with it. I grew up at an early enough age. I heard about tithing at probably age 10-ish or something like that. And I personally have been tithing almost, there have been some times I haven't, but I personally have been tithing 10% since about age 10, interestingly enough. Um, I did have a period of time when I first got married that I didn't tithe for about a year, kind of created a little bit of a train wreck financially, interestingly enough. Got back on track and have done well since. Now let me talk though about was I rich at that time? Like was I like really prosperous? No, I wasn't. Here's what I did have though as a result. I had total faith that I would never be out on the streets. I'd always have something to eat, somewhere to sleep, something to wear, something to drive, blah, blah, blah. Not blah, blah, that's important stuff. Some people don't have that. Why did I believe I would always have that? Well, I had times where I ran out of money, but those things always got taken care of. And I believe it was due to me paying tithing and having the faith. But was I getting rich? No. You know why? Because, and this would go to what I would say about your parents did okay, but they didn't do super well. Well, because that was their belief system about it. They knew God would take care of them, and he probably did a pretty good job of that. He just didn't go to the nth degree, and that was probably because of how they were programmed by their parents in society. What I have found is this: since I've learned these laws and to understand how things actually work, I'm like, oh, it's kind of like what I just talked about a moment ago for Dale, being somebody who's a Christian. We know intellectually that Jesus did what Jesus did, but we don't believe that it covers us. So if we don't believe it covers us, we don't get the use value out of what Jesus did. And by the way, I'm not trying to convert anybody to anything. I'm just trying to give an example. If you believe intellectually in the law of attraction, but you don't believe spiritually and inside the law of attraction, all you have is an intellectual understanding, and you don't get the full benefit. But I know people, and I've met them and I've talked with them, and not always the most religious, that their belief in tithing was, one, I'm going to tithe, and two, I'll be blessed beyond unbelievably. I know some people, and I'm not saying, and again, it has to be faith, because you could go do this without believing it. It's not going to work for you, but they believed it. So what they did is they tithed 10% of the amount they wanted to earn at the time. So let's say they were earning $100,000 at the time, and tithing would have normally been 10,000. They went and tithed 20,000 or 30,000, and totally grew and flourished and got bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. But the idea behind doing it isn't, it's not I give you $1. It's not an investment. It's more of an insurance policy. Think of it as more of an insurance policy than an investment, and you'll come out on the better end of your thought process on this. Because I also understand too the law of attraction, and how somebody who's never heard of tithing, if we don't know anything about it, we haven't heard of it, it's not quite like the law of gravity where we suffer for it. But when God plants it in your heart and teaches you how it works, and then you choose not to do it, not the best idea. The more we learn about how things really work, the more accountable we are to God in the universe for actually doing what God teaches us to do. And so that expectation, the more we know, the more we grow. And the more we grow, the more we are able to do. But when we kind of I'm putting out kind of a visual. We spit in God's face when he teaches us how to do something. And then we say, I ain't gonna do it, when we actually know we're supposed to. If we don't know any better, that's different. Sometimes, though, the laws of the universe, we hurt ourselves by not knowing any better. Just like the law of gravity, we crawl off the other side of the counter and hurt ourselves and wonder why. We're disobeying the laws that govern it, receiving more money and wealth into our lives. So one, I'm not telling you to pay me anything. That was not the intention for anybody. What I was wanting to say is that there are things that God has put out there that says, if you will do this and you have faith in it, this is what you'll have in return. But if you don't have faith in anything that you're doing, then doing it is actually creates more worry and fear and doubt. So you've got to come from the right frame of mind.
So to come back to my specific situation. Okay.
Well, this is your specific.
Nothing going
Have
to
you ever
church.
tried it in faith? Have you
Huh?
done it in faith?
I'm sorry?
Have you ever made the decision to tithe in faith?
No, I never have.
Okay, so you can't get the benefit of that. That doesn't mean you can't have any benefits in life. That just means you won't get that benefit. That's all.
But the thing is, it's now, like you said, I've just been enlightened about it.
You know intellectually, but I'm not going to pretend that I'm God telling you that, like, you now know and understand. But I'm talking about let's say after this discussion, okay, later on today and tomorrow and through the next week or two, things pop up that let you know from inspiration, revelation, intuition, your own, that you should follow through with what you heard. Then you're accountable. But now you're not accountable right now. When we ask God for something, let's take tithing out of the picture for a moment, and let's just talk to manifesting money and wealth and the other things we've been talking about for the last few months. When we receive inspiration and intuition to do something and we don't, that's when we hurt ourselves,
I get it.
right? So unless you're feeling anything that you should do, don't worry about it. If you feel like you should all of a sudden because now you heard it and you really truly feel you should do something about it, then research it and decide what, between you, God, and the universe, what you should do. But again, it's one of those things where we, you and I've had a personal discussion outside of others, and you want certain goals and you want certain things, but I also know too, you're freaking stubborn. You are, and sometimes your old success gets in the way of your new success. You're too proud of your old successes, and you're not humble enough for the new success. You may not like me saying that to you, but that's intuitively what I get. And so you're going to end up having to humble yourself, or something else will humble you in order to get what you want. You're probably not going to like hearing that. But ultimately, that's probably what's going to need to happen. Now, how long it takes for that to happen is totally up to you. But that's, if you truly want what you want and you're not willing to give up on what you want, you will eventually find yourself humbling yourself or being humbled so that you can finally rise up and receive what you really want.
Oh, I understand that principle.
Yeah.
And I'm going to agree to disagree with you.
That's fine. Yeah, I know you would at this point. Totally,
Well,
I totally expect that.
Because I have been humbled, and I'm just climbing back out of that. And that's why I'm saying that. Yeah.
No, I'm not saying in any and every area of your life. I'm just talking about as few certain things I can tell. I'm not willing to do that because this, that, or the other, I. But that's okay. That I deal with that all the time.
All right.
And by the way, I recognize it so well because that was so me. Very much, very, very, very much like that for quite too long. And it's a painful place to be. It's lukewarm. It's like I'm doing just well enough to have this, but I don't quite have what it's this weird place to be where it's hard to be satisfied because we know there's something better, even though we look at the rest of the world and they would look at us and go, oh, wow, you're doing great. We know who we are, and we know intuitively, we know that we are all capable to be, do, and have more than we have. That's every human being on planet Earth. And when we're not moving forward in the way that we know we should be, that frustrates us. Yeah, but anyhow.
For just 1 second, what's the difference between insurance policy and investment? That's a silly question.
Well, just from a financial thing, an insurance, without talking, spiritually, I was just using that as an illustration. In investment, you put money into something hoping that it's going to return you more than you put in.
Oh, right.
In insurance policy, you put money into it so that if something were to come up, it will cover it. And some forms of insurance I get can also be a form of investment. Okay.
Oh,
but
okay.
I don't want to get into this whole what type of insurance is what, but it's essentially, think of it as an insurance policy.
Okay, thank you. Thanks.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Hi, Kevin.
Yes, Betsy.
Yeah, it's Betsy. I wanted to ask you, this really does speak to me, what you said today. We've been taking care of like Alan's brother, my husband's brother, for a few years.
Okay.
And I feel like we're paying his bills And I'm feel like if we don't, then he'll probably be out in the street. So what do, I mean, you're saying that if you keep doing that, we're playing God, or
Well, okay, first of all, and when you say I'm saying I read what an author said, but I'm in agreement with most of what that author said. It depends on the situation. I don't know, God does, you do. I don't know the situation that this person is in that you're paying their bills. Are they capable of taking care of themselves? Or would they possibly become capable if you let them do it?
I think they would be.
Well, then you're doing the wrong thing. They're not wanting to take care of themselves. That's different.
Well, I think they kind of want to, but maybe they're
Yeah,
just
but
not.
you made it way too,
Yeah.
you know what you turned into? So I lived, and I lived in France for a couple of years. And this was
Mhm.
quite a while ago. Um, and it moved there from the United States. I was serving a mission for my church at that time. And here's what I recognized at the time. So this goes way back to around the time that the first Gulf War broke out. And I remember walking into apartment complexes. They're huge over there. They're like our skyscrapers and stuff, right? And I remember talking to people, and here was their conversation with me. We talk about God and stuff, but we talk about other things. And here was essentially their conversation with me. So think about this when you think about this relative that you're helping, and then decide if you really are helping them or not. What happened is we would walk into these apartments, and this goes back many years. Okay, so this goes back probably 30 years at least, a little over 30 years. But walk in, and their apartments were reasonably nice, huge freaking TV on the wall, and they had more stuff. I mean, we were serving as missionaries, so we didn't have a lot of stuff. Had a different purpose, but it was like, okay, it's pretty decent here. And then we would find out that they were on welfare. And the reason they wouldn't go get a job was because the difference for them, talking to them, the difference between having a job and not having a job was maybe only $200 to $300 a month to the plus. So I can go work 40 hours a week, every week, and only have $300 more than I would if I stay home. That
Okay.
was the experience. And I could be off on the dollar figure just a little bit, but there was not enough incentive for a person to go out and work. They were given way too much. Therefore, they sat at home.
How would you do this if you know that they're not going to be able to pay the bills tomorrow? I mean, should you give them a couple months, or I mean, how would you do that?
Well, how old is this human being?
Well, she's an adult.
Okay.
He's an adult.
Has he worked in the past?
He has.
How long ago was that?
Probably like maybe 10, 15 years ago.
Who's covered him for 10, 15 years?
Well, he's had some well, we have for a while, and he did get some money from his mom when she passed away. And he did get workman's comp type of thing.
Yeah. Well, I read to you what I read. You have to decide for yourself how you feel about it, what you want to do about it. We don't always get the answer we want to hear, meaning sometimes truth sucks.
Yeah.
And so yeah.
Well, I've been thinking this anyway. I have been thinking this for a while.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And
because I feel like I'm enabling them.
Yeah, you're enabling, and it's holding you back too. And
right, and it's
trying to fill a role that you shouldn't fill. And it is tough because we love and we don't like people to suffer. None of us do. Nobody wants to see anybody else suffer. I can tell you, I go back at some point. I've been homeless before.
how did you get out of it?
I had to change my attitude, the way I thought, and do something. But it wasn't somebody giving me money.
Right. So did you live, where, do you live in your car? I mean, what do you
Uh-huh.
mean homeless?
Yeah, that I was in a car.
Hmm.
And then because I didn't have money for down payments for things, as I made some money, then paid for a hotel room once in a while. And then eventually, worked and saved up money to put down so I could rent a place and then move, it doesn't start out luxurious. It just, but
Right.
so I know what I saw and what I experienced. Now that I have a problem with that. However, because I've learned this, I'll give and teach and do all kinds of things, and I'll help someone, but I won't enable the person if I can, figure out if there's a difference. And I ask God a lot of times what I should do in that situation. Now, I will always err on the side of giving and being wrong versus on the side of hoarding and being right, if that makes sense, but not because I want to. If I'm unsure, I'll help until I know what God wants me to do.
Yeah.
When I recognize that I'm in a situation where my help would be better used differently, and sometimes people aren't willing, I get that. How could you help him? You could show him how the law of attraction works and why he is where he is. And he could choose to do something about it, or he could ignore you.
Yeah.
But-
But the law of attraction sometimes takes a little while for it to manifest. It doesn't always manifest in one day, does it?
I've had it manifest in a day for lots of things that I needed that day.
Okay.
Yeah. Not everything I want manifests in a day, but I don't always need it in that day either. I might want it sooner than I actually need it sometimes. And
Right.
I've got to go through we have to reprogram ourselves subconsciously for every single thing that we want. So it's a process,
Right.
right? So
Right.
there's still things that I would like to have that I don't have because I'm still working on that one. But I take them, one or two at a time. You try and take too many things at once, then it's tougher to do it. But every positive thing that we do brings more positive. So yeah, I knew this was going to turn out to be a very interesting meeting today. And I knew this might be the one time where people are going to be like, I don't agree with you. And I'm sure there's other times too, but I'm telling you, ask the person in charge who isn't me. Ask the person who's in charge what you should do. And if you're actually willing to do what God and the universe tell you, then you'll make the right decision for you.
Yeah. Yeah, but I'm not the type that would just make them, be homeless. I mean,
No, you're
I
not
wouldn't
making
wanna do
anybody
that.
homeless. You're not making anybody. So, hey, guess what? I'm making up a name, well, Steve, yes. Okay, 30 days or 60, whatever, 90, but that's it. And that's the deadline.
Yeah.
And if they do nothing, they are going to have to go through whatever they have to go through. But I'm telling you, like it's told in the story, they didn't thrive and survive or anything until mom quit taking care of them. Her husband almost, went to the grave, and their kids didn't progress. Well, you just told me there hasn't really been any progression for years
No.
now, because you're taking care of me. Why do I need to progress? I know somebody's going to make sure I have a house to live in, food to eat, clothes to wear.
Right.
I don't need more than that to survive. Yeah, that's true. Animals don't need any more than that to survive, but we're not animals with 4 legs, right? We're meant to do more, be more, and have more.
Right.
Yeah. Any other questions or comments before we go?
Hi, Kevin. It's Takira. How are you?
Awesome. How are you, Takira?
I'm well, thank you. I would show my face when my hair is not done.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, now here's the thing. I did what you said about the Mercedes. So I did rent the E-Class Mercedes, but it's for March 19th through the 21st. So I'm so happy about that. But about today's reading, I was
Uh-huh.
just thinking to myself, because I tithe every week, but I've run out of people to tithe to, Kevin, for that reason of like not wanting to be taken advantage of or paying their bills. So how do I do this right? Because I don't know who else to tithe to. I tithe to everybody that I think feeds me spiritually, but I don't attend churches anymore. I just watch it online.
Okay.
So I don't know. I want to do this right, but I don't know who to give to.
You
And
know
I
what?
asked God, but I don't know. He hasn't
Yeah,
told me.
just say, hey, God, who would you like me to tithe to next?
Okay. And do
Let
I
me-
just hold it until he tells me?
Well, I'm totally open to doing it. You already know that because I've been doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And I would like to do it where, I ought to do it, where I get my spiritual feeding, so to speak. And yeah, it's not really gonna, so sometimes, Takira, and this is cool, when you ask questions, you want to be told what to do. See, we all have these different personalities.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, okay, tell me what to do, I'll go do it. Which that's really pretty cool. That's a fun person to coach.
Yeah.
However, also that means you sometimes don't want to do the thinking side of it. You want somebody to tell you.
Mm-hmm. You're right, Kevin.
That's more your personality, which again, that's the flip side. The cool side is I'm coachable. Tell me what to do. Go run through brick wall. Okay, there I go. Now what? But sometimes the better answer is what do you intuitively feel you should be doing?
Okay. My intuition is important now.
Yeah.
Okay.
But you'll find the right thing and you'll feel good about it. That one's not going to be this big disruptive, difficult thing. It should be really joyful because you're doing exactly what God in the universe would have you do. You're just trying to decide, where it should go, and they'll help you.
Okay. And another thing I wanted to ask you, oh my God, I just slipped my tongue. It just slipped my mind. Oh, Jesus. It was a good question I have for you. Oh, the saving. The book, how it says, because I have the book and I just read it again, where it says don't hoard. But how much, like, do we save? Like, I know you don't know the correct number, but like, shouldn't we save a small amount just like because?
Well, what you could save as much as you want, okay? It's the frame of mind that you're doing it from that matters. Do you want to hoard? Do you want to pile of? And here's what we tend to want, okay? Number one, we want control. We want to control our lives and the outcomes. And the interesting thing is we actually have the ability to do that, but we do it wrong because we're trying to do things. The best way to control our life and to get the outcomes that we want is to decide what we want and then let God, the universe, provide for it. And then if we were off because we put in the phrase or added to the thought, this or something better, and for good for all who's concerned, then we know that if we do make a poor choice on our own, God will still protect us because he'll bring us what was actually better for us. So if we don't fear that we are going to receive what we want, then we don't concern ourselves nearly as much with how we're going to receive what we want into our life, and we tend not to hoard. But when we are in the attitude of, I'm going to hold on to this because I don't know when I'm going to have more, then what we're saying is I'm not trusting for that moment. I'm not saying you're not trusting 24/7, 365. I'm saying that you're in a vibration at that point of fear and doubt and worry and concern. So if you're saving money with the intention of using it to do good with it, that's different. If you're using it because you're trying to avoid bad, does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes total sense.
Right? You're not doing it to try and avoid bad. You're doing it to do good.
I like that. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, Kevin.
You're welcome. Any other questions or comments? I know I'm going to have the other class in about an hour. You guys are more than welcome to pop into that if you want to. But
Yeah, Kevin, this is Rich. How are you?
hey, good. How are you, Rich?
Oh, no, not too bad, not too bad. Just a comment. I had owned a couple properties, rental properties in Wildwood, New Jersey, for a few years, and I ran across somebody there. He had a couple of challenges, let's say, but basically, he found out that essentially he could work there for, I guess, minimum wage or not much more than minimum wage, and end up um rooming with other people in a house or apartment or something like that, you know, uh without air conditioning. Or he could uh be unemployed, and then they'd give him a voucher to be in an air conditioned hotel room, uh to stay there. So
Mhm.
uh he was disincentivized uh,
Exactly.
about working,
Yeah.
but he didn't feel good about that. He felt that for his motivation, uh he needed something else, so he actually ended up moving out of the area to improve himself.
There you go. Yeah, great comment. We intuitively, we know we don't feel good inside when we are not meeting our potential. We don't. I mean, I'm not saying again that it's 20 like that, the feeling is just on constant 24/7, 365. But when we reflect on something, that's good that that person, it's like, okay, both situations aren't too cool, right? No AC if I work, AC if I don't work, but now I'm not productive, I'm not progressing, I'm not doing anything. Instead of worrying about the AC, he was like, okay, I want a better life. And I don't know what his belief system is, but I would say that having a better life was more important than the other two options, or he wouldn't have taken option number three. He wouldn't have even been open to option number three. So that's really cool. And the other thing too is, yeah, you know what? Minimum, the way that the government has created stuff, we keep raising minimum wage. Okay, terrific, but we keep raising what we give people. So eventually minimum wage and what you receive for doing nothing are too close to each other. And that takes away the incentive. But we don't work that way. We're not designed to be that way. And when you learn what we're learning through law of attraction and how the laws of the universe work and how our subconscious mind works, we recognize that, you know what? Government schmoverment, right? If they want to send me a check, great. But if they don't send me a check, it doesn't matter. I still want my life to be like this. And therefore, I'm going to utilize what I'm learning through the law of attraction and how the laws work and how my mind works and how to reprogram myself so that I could care less what the government does. It only affects us if we allow it to.
I agree. Thank you, Kevin.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for sharing that. That was cool.
Sure.
All right. Unless there's a burning question right now, I'm going to go get ready for the next meeting that we're going to have in about 55 minutes or so.
Hey, Kevin, how do I find that out? Go to Meetup?
Here, let me do this. I'll do this for you guys really quick. I'll go grab a link for you. Hang on, I gotta find it. So I've got to get into my Zoom account. So it might take a minute here to get to what I need to grab the link. Okay. Then meetings. Come on. this link here. Let you register. Okay, so let me get out of screen share here. Let me pop into chat for a moment. And yeah, this is the link for the later meeting. All you have to do is register once, just like this one, and then you can use the same link every day for that meeting.
Thanks, Kevin.
Yeah, you're welcome. So if you guys want to go ahead, anybody who wants to grab it, I'll stay open for just another moment so you can grab the link if you like to. Because once I close the Zoom meeting, you won't have access to that. So and even if you're not going to attend today, you might still want to go click it so you have the link. You know where to find it.
Yep.
All righty. It was awesome having you guys here, and we'll be back to what we were doing. Today was, and by the way, I'm not going to do what I just did now for the next meeting. So you guys got it. The next meeting, we're going to be on track to doing what we were already doing. All right. See you guys either
Thanks,
in a little
Kevin.
bit or see you tomorrow. Thank you.
Thanks, Kevin.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Kevin.
Uh-huh.